Civilization gets pretty damn weird. This is an incredibly popular franchise with a long history and cultural significance. Most people who pay attention to video games know a thing or two about it, but the lore goes deep into the realm of obscure forum posts, cursed memes, and bizarre misappropriations of history. If you seek it out, you shall find it, and so I present to you today, the Civilization Iceberg Explained. Level 1. Let's begin with the main series. Civilization is a PC strategy game created by Sid Meier, first released in 1991. It is considered to have pioneered the 4X subgenre of strategy games. It has spawned 6 sequels, with many expansion packs, and each single entry in the franchise has been a commercial and critical hit. One more turn. This is a famous phrase most associated with Civilization. It embodies the addictive nature of the turn-based gameplay. There's always something you're looking forward to getting, and when you get it, you're looking forward to using its effects. From the first installment, mainstays like Wonders and Research Along the Tech Tree have motivated players to keep on clicking that end turn button. Nuclear Gandhi. When you hit the modern era of the first Civilization, Gandhi would occasionally call you up to threaten you with his nuclear weapons. The juxtaposition between his real-world reputation and his in-game behavior made this perhaps the most famous meme from the franchise, and it's the kind of thing you might have heard of even if you've never played Civ. Ursa Ryan. Ursa is a YouTuber and cartoonist. Inspired by the Duck Panda's Zelda comics, he made a commitment to draw a Civ-related cartoon and put it on the Civilization subreddit every day until Civilization 7 was released. After 638 days, the game was released, and his hard work was commemorated in a cartoon posted by the official social media account for Civilization. Yield boasting. The core gameplay of Civilization revolves around receiving things from used tiles in your empire. Resources refers to something else, and so to avoid ambiguity, we call these yields. In the first game, this was just shields, food, and trade arrows, but later on you could get culture, science, faith, etc. as yields from tiles. People love to gush over specific strategies that maximize yields from a city, starting with King Richard's Crusade and the Colossus in Civ 2, tourism stacking in Civ 3, Petra and the Mausoleum in Civ 5 and 6, and it has recently reached an insane degree with specialists in Civ 7. True Earth Start. One of the most popular alternative game modes for Civilization that has existed since the first entry in the series is the Earth map. You spawn on a pre-made map of the Earth. Some variations of these maps have true spawn locations. So, China spawns in China, Egypt starts in Egypt, and one of either the Byzantines or the Ottomans doesn't exist, or things get really scrappy really soon. Level 2. Level 2 begins with knowing all of the well-known spin-off games. Colonization was released in 1994, and was later remade as a full conversion of Civ 4. Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri was a creative and extremely story-driven 4X game made by Brian Reynolds, the lead developer of Civ 2. There were 2 Civilization Call to Power games released around the turn of the century. These were competing titles with some new ideas. Sid Meier led the design of Civilization Revolution, a streamlined entry for consoles. This game got a sequel in 2014. Also in 2014, Beyond Earth was a remake of Civ 5 with middling reception that attempted to do something similar to what Alpha Centauri did. And Civilization World was an MMO that you could access through Facebook. That sounds like a cash grab, and maybe it was, but it actually had Sid Meier as the lead designer. This man is a national treasure. The Cycle. Basically, the community hates new entries and then grows to love them. New games in the franchise usually make significant changes. It's also like chess, where the graphics don't need fundamentally to be improved, and it's not like they've been consistently good at fixing the UI. As a result, even though these have all been quality games, each one has had a pushback. It started getting serious with Civilization 5, which had a rough launch. By Civ 7, the community had started to become self-aware, and this resulted in us getting blindsided by a game that's likely the worst launch in the franchise. We will see how people grow to like it though, maybe the cycle will continue. Canals. This is something fans of the game love to meme. In every iteration of Civ, boats can enter cities. This means that if you place a city on a land bridge that is 1 tile thick, you can sail through it. Naval combat has been underwhelming in many of the games, but the potential here for a tactical advantage is too tempting, and often players share screenshots of interesting canal setups. The Panama Canal was cut as a wonder during the development for Civ 5, but it was included in Civ 6. Gilgabro. Gilgamesh is the subject of the Epic of Gilgamesh, a 4,000-year-old epic poem documenting his heroism. It's unclear whether he's a real historical person or just a mythic figure. Regardless, he is the leader of Samaria in several of the Civ games. In Civilization 6, Gilgamesh's AI programming is notorious for making him a really chill dude. He will declare friendship with you for no reason, forgive you for wars, forgive you for betrayals, and be glad to go out on one more epic adventure with you. This is built into the game mechanically too. He begins the game with access to a mobile, unique unit, and him and his allies get bonuses and rewards for fighting together. 1 unit per tile. In Civ 3 and Civ 4, you could have as many units as you wanted on a tile with almost no downside. In Civ 5 and beyond, you were restricted to only 1 military unit per tile. This was absolute whiplash, and it tends to divide the series into a before and after in the minds of fans, with many claiming that they cannot tolerate one system or the other. Critics of 1 unit per tile point out that it is slow, frustrating, and that the AI is bad at using it. Proponents of this change point to Doom stacks being the meta strategy before the shift, and that they like the tactical focus of the new system. Trade agreement with England. This is a line from the diplomacy in Civ 5 that has become a meme. Multiplayer Civ. Civilization is best known as a single-player game. It's a long game, and the AI in it is more engaging than your typical MOBA or FPS, so it works well in single-player. However, there is a dedicated multiplayer community. The feature was introduced in Civ 2, and it has grown more fervent with each installment. There is a daily, active multiplayer community for Civilization 3, 4, 5, 6, and of course, now, 7. Civilization forums. Before the rise of mass social media platforms like Reddit and Facebook, the internet was divvied up into a wide assortment of smaller, niche communities with their own unique culture. The 2 biggest of the bunch for Civilization were Civ Fanatics and Apoliton. They peaked in relevance around the release of Civ 4, but Civ Fanatics is still going strong, and a lot of great and valuable stuff is archived there. The influence of these sites has been immortalized within the series itself. Thunderfall, a lead mod at CFC, appears as a city name in Civ 3 for the Vikings, as does Apoliton for the Greeks. Level 3.
Yeah!
Avalon Hill. The original game of Civilization was based on a board game published in 1980 by Avalon Hill. It included some ideas such as the tech tree, but it had a fixed map.
Yeah!
We must dissent. This repeated line is from a cutscene for the Self-Aware Colony, one of the creepier secret projects in Alpha Centauri. I'll just play the whole clip for you.
We must dissent. We must dissent. We must dissent. Will we next create false gods to rule over us? How proud we have become, and how blind. Sister Miriam Godwinson, we must dissent.
A few of these cutscenes are notorious for different reasons. The Dream Twister one is pretty messed up, but the atmosphere in this one is unmatched. In Alpha Centauri's lore, This represents advancements in automated surveillance and policing, and it hints at the subjugation of the Believers, one of the factions.
Yeah!
AI Battle Royale. This is a common template for YouTube content. People will set up games where the AI, typically the highest level AI, fights each other. It's actually been done before by the official Civilization YouTube channel.
Yeah!
Zero City Challenge. One City Challenge has been a popular, difficult challenge throughout the history of the franchise. But with some changes in Civ 6, suddenly you were able to win the game without planting, capturing, or even having a single city. This was famously done by YouTubers such as Spiffing Brit and Bostius.
Yeah!
Sid Meier's Memoir. Published in 2020, this is the autobiography of his career, and has a ton of insight into the creation and development of civilization. Some of his commentary from the books has started circulating, including things like his 1/3 rule for how much a game should change with each sequel. Spearman versus Tank. Combat has become more normalized in the newer Civ games, but in earlier iterations, specifically Civ 1 and Civ 3, combat was very swingy, and often weaker units would defeat stronger ones. In Civ 1, people would say that phalanx beats battleship. In Civ 3, the saying was, Spearman beats tank, immortalized in this emoticon from CFC. Ignoring retreat chance, a regular tank would lose to a spearman 1.5% of the time, but if we make that spearman a veteran and we say it's fortified in a city, suddenly those odds jump to 8.4%.
Yeah!
The Eternal War. This began as a single text post on Reddit in 2012. Someone posted saying that they've been playing the same old save file for a decade. People were fascinated by the emergent narrative, resulting from the combination of Civ 2's AI programming and game mechanics. Specifically, its ability to produce a stalemate dystopian nuclear war that lasts forever. If you want, you can pick up the save and play it for yourself.
Yeah!
Integer overflow. So, an explanation emerged for the nuclear Gandhi phenomenon. Supposedly, Gandhi was the most peaceful leader in the game, with a near zero value for aggression, and later on, when he switched to democracy, the reduction in aggression could produce a negative number, so it would overflow and produce the most aggressive Gandhi possible.
Yeah!
Suicide boats. In Civilization 1 through 3, low-technology boats were not restricted to only coastal tiles. They would just often sink in open water. This led to strategies of intentionally sending out boats, risking them dying, often for multiple turns in a row, all in hopes of colonizing a faraway island or contacting a distant civ. With Civilization 4, map size was reduced, and with that, galleys were locked to staying on tiles that are adjacent to pieces of land. That being said, the feature has made a bit of a comeback in Civilization 7.
Yeah!
Jadwiga is thick. Jadwiga, also known as Hedwig, was a Hungarian-born monarch of Poland and serves as the leader for Poland in Civilization 6. Civilization 6 has a bit of a cartoony graphic style and doesn't shy away from showing a variety of body types. Some of them are a bit non-traditional. For the female leaders, you're not getting this. More on that later. Jadwiga's build is comparatively normal, but players noticed that she has a bit of a bottom to her, leading to memes and fan edits. Checking paintings portraying her, this seems reasonably accurate. She has a pear-shaped, Rubenesque figure to her. This is reflected in the game, and appreciated by fans. Level 4. Elvis. Elvis has appeared in numerous Civ games. In Civ 1, the Entertainer looks like him. In Civ 2, the much-beloved live-action advisor panel has an entertainment advisor who is basically an Elvis impersonator. In Civ 3, if you play Regicide on his birthday, the King unit is the King himself. and in Civ 4, the great artist of the modern era looks like Elvis. Late 90s legal dispute. Microprose published Civ 1 and 2, but 3 developers, Brian Reynolds, Jeff Briggs, and Sid Meier himself, were unhappy there and left to start their own company, Firaxis. Around the same time, Activision bought out Avalon Hill, the publishers of the board game, and were asserting their own rights to the name of the franchise. They failed, but eventually paid to release Call to Power under the Civilization name. 3 months after Call to Power, Microprose released Civ 2 Test of Time, which was rushed and had some suspiciously familiar themes. In the end, both games were beaten out in sales by Alpha Centauri. It turned out that having Sid Meier's name on the box was more important than the word civilization. Hidden Sid Meiers. Let's take a bit of a detour. How often does Sid's likeness appear in the Civ games? Well, he's the technology advisor in Civ 1 and 3. In Civ 4, he's the leader of the Barbarian faction, if you can somehow talk to them, and he voices tech quotes from the expansion packs. He's also the leader of a hidden faction in Alpha Centauri, the Firaxians. Am I missing something? For some reason, Googling Sid Meier's civilization didn't yield the type of results that I was looking for here. Integer overflow isn't true. What a shocking twist. So the story I told you about the reason for Gandhi's aggression? Totally fabricated, at least as far as we can tell. It likely first appeared on TV tropes and spread from there. Brian Reynolds has come out and said that the rumor, as written, doesn't fit with the way that Civilization was coded. However, by Civilization 5, they were explicitly making it so Gandhi was predisposed to building and using nukes. So it's not like the phenomenon doesn't appear within the franchise. Austria in Civ 3. There was intended to be one additional Civ in the final expansion for Civ 3. You might notice that the conquest scenarios contain exactly one leaderhead who doesn't appear in the base game. That would be Charles V of Austria. They were supposed to be militaristic and industrious, and their unique unit was supposed to be the Hussar, a replacement for the cavalry. Some fans have tried reinserting them into the game. I think that this is misguided. For one, their traits are identical to China's, and we don't really know what the Hussar was supposed to do. There's nothing that really makes sense for it. Everything that it could do already existed in the game. Civ Rev Cleopatra. This refers to the art model for Cleopatra in Civilization Revolution. She is egregiously sexualized, and culturally, I don't know what they were going for here. Tamar meme. In 2016, a blurry image of the planned leaders for Civ 6 was released, and people very quickly figured out that it was in alphabetical order. Between Germany and Greece, there was some unreleased Civ. Now, Georgia is not between those two alphabetically, but it's close, and a lot of other factors seem to fit. The leader ended up being Gorgo for Greece, but in the meantime, people were pushing hard for Tamar from Georgia, to the point where this was considered almost a foregone conclusion. Well, Take-Two was not happy letting our memes be dreams, and so Tamar was eventually added to the roster of leaders for Civ 6. Level 5. Korean MMO. This was called Civilization Online, not to be confused with the Facebook game that I mentioned before. It came out in 2015, and from what I've seen from gameplay footage online, it seems to be a bit in the style of a gacha game. It shut down after a single year. Seondeok Outrage. With the release of the Rise and Fall expansion for Civ 6, Seondeok was added as a leader to the game. This was quite controversial among some Korean fans. They took issue with her relative lack of historical achievements and the choices made for her appearance and facial features. Never-ending stories. Civ fanatics had a rich tradition of using game reports as an outlet to do roleplay and creative writing. It was honestly a little bit expected that if you were writing a report about the game that you played, that you'd be role-playing as your leader and talking about the events in character. From this quirk in forum culture emerged the never-ending story. Someone just started writing a story in the style of a Civ 3 game recap, but without the game, and people just took it and ran with it. The first story did not last forever, unsurprisingly, but the idea took off, and people started using these as an extremely elaborate, forum-based role-playing game. One user would serve as the game master and pump out pages of stats about each player-controlled nation. The players would send their orders, sometimes through MSN Messenger, and the game master would choose the results and produce an update, showing the new map with everything that happened. Players would then RP what they did. Browsing these threads is a window into how the internet, and our attention spans, have changed. Plumbing Civ 2. This refers to plumbing, a technology that exists in the code for Civilization 2, but was disabled before the final release of the game. It required construction and pottery. There are mysterious cases where this non-existing advance may be referenced in the game. Civ Color. This refers to Civilization 1 and 2. Each Civ had an assigned color, and so if you played as, for example, the Romans in Civ 2, you would never see the Russians. Of course, all Civs are mechanically the same in these first two games, but the AI personalities are not, so in some sense, the color you picked had an effect on the course of the game. Atomic Zulu theme. Oh god, so this was part of Civ 6's soundtrack. It is a beautiful and creative piece, but something is off. You can have a listen right now. It's 1 minute and 41 seconds into the track. You might hear something a little sus. Among Us was a 2018 multiplayer social deduction game that gained popularity during the pandemic. It became turbocharged as a meme, and people would make a point of finding references to the game in everything. Words like the title of the game, imposter, or sus, and of course, the iconic design of the characters from the game were projected onto every single piece of media imaginable in a sort of postmodern Rorschach inkblot test. Some of these are a bit of a reach. This one really is not. Communism Utopia. When editing Civ 4, the name of the tech Communism is Utopia. All of the other techs have their usual names. No one is really sure why they did this. Top Secret. Okay, so the tech art from Civilization 3 is really bizarre. A lot of abstract symbols, weirdly imposing angles, and liminal spaces. Compare this to the art from Civ 2 Test of Time, which was much more detailed, despite being released 2 years earlier. One of the oddest inclusions in Civ 3 was the art for espionage. The guy is holding a manila envelope with the words Top Secret written in massive 3D lettering. Oedo years. In Civilization 2, certain game actions occur at a 4-turn interval, so every 4th turn is an Oedo year, named after the user from Civ Fanatics who discovered this phenomenon. You can use them to figure out how long your anarchy will last, or when the barbarians are going to spawn. Level 6. Civ for the N-Gage. The N-Gage, also known as the taco phone, was a failed attempt at mixing a cell phone with a handheld gaming device in the mid-2000s. I read some articles about it in EGM when it was released. The detail that stuck with me was that you needed to take out the batteries to change the game that you were playing. Anyway, they basically ported Civ 2 to this device, but with some of the UI upgrades from Civ 3? Very mysterious. The Utopia Project Conspiracy. It's not uncommon for features to be changed or removed with expansion packs, but Civ 5 is, I believe, the only one that had an entire victory condition removed. On launch, the cultural victory condition was building the Utopia project. This was scrapped and replaced with a tourism-style victory. What makes this piece of forgotten game design notable are the conspiracy theories that have emerged surrounding it. Specifically, I can't find any specific evidence that is supposed to substantiate this, but some people believe that it was scrubbed from the game due to its connection to the Illuminati. Gender-swapped Shaka. In Civ 2, they wanted to allow you to play as a woman. Makes sense. So each civilization was given a female leader. Okay. Unfortunately, they couldn't find female leaders for all of these civs. In fact, 10 of the civs have a leader who is not a specific woman from history. As Japan, you play as the Japanese solar goddess. With Persia, you play as Shahrazad. And with the Zulu, you play as Shakala. Now, I know what you're thinking. Suede, embarrassingly, I don't know enough about pre-colonial South Africa. Who is Shakala? Shakala's not real. She is just a gender-swapped version of the Zulu leader Shaka. The most baffling part was that this was clearly negotiable since the Incans and the Arabs do not have a female leader in the game. I guess Pachacudi and drag was deemed just worse than giving up on what they were trying to do. Civ 4 leaderheads. So, within the pre-release game files for Civ 4, you can find a microscopically small portrayal of, praise be upon him, the Prophet Muhammad. Muhammad was a very successful military leader, so I can see why someone would choose him as a placeholder or a first pick. However, depictions of Muhammad are considered to be offensive within many versions of Islam, so it is understandable why this was not included on launch. Kumujil-yin Qoro. Civilization 3 added scientific great leaders, and again, they couldn't find 3 candidates for some of the civs in the game. The choices for the Mongols are especially egregious. The first is just Ulaanbaatar. The second is Minzu Wenyibao, which translates to Minority Arts and Literature Newspaper. The third is Kumujil-yin Qoro. Qoro? This one is a complete and utter mystery. One user claimed that it might be the name of a publishing house in Mongolia. FMonk. This was an extremely prolific lobby troll in the late 2000s. Back when servers for Civ 3 ran on GameSpy and lobby chat occurred on GameSpy Arcade, this one man spent half a decade constantly spamming the chat, saying that he was the best Ankh future player. He had been banned from the latter ages ago, so he never even played the game, but still posted daily for years. I remember one time I was curious, I played a 1v1 against him. He was passable, but not good by any means, and he quit, of course. The leader of Germany. This refers to the question that sometimes emerges among fans: why is a certain art school aspirant not the leader for one of the Civ games? In fact, even in the World War II scenario for Civ 4, Germany is led by Vice-Chancellor von Papen. Aside from the obvious reasons, there could be legal complications with trying to release such a game in Germany. Miriam's demise. Miriam is the leader of the Believers, one of the factions in Alpha Centauri. The lore heavily suggests that she took her own life and encouraged her followers to do the same. We know that Miriam's faction is losing, as we mentioned with the self-aware colony, and we get another quote from her with the bulk matter transmitter, showing us that she believes that people die when they are teleported. This brings us to our quote for the Psi Gate, where she's fervently urging her followers to follow through the gate in hopes of meeting God and maybe a miracle. This is also her final quote in the game. Put all this together, and I don't think there's any way to interpret this that isn't really horrifying. Even if we believe that the human soul continues through teleportation and that her and her followers are going to be fine, she doesn't believe that. And that is, if she hasn't rigged the gate to yeet herself into the sun or to the vacuum of space or something. So this is basically canon, that her and her followers intentionally obliterate themselves. This game is something else, man. Beyond Earth could never. YUMBO. We've talked about some pretty dark things today, but this one probably takes the cake. It's a reference to something very unfortunate from the development and playtesting of Civilization 3 that appears at the end of the credits. I do not think that I could, in good conscience, share this information with you, but just know that knowing everything about it that I do now, it has a significant effect on how I view the series as a whole. Alright, congratulations on making it through the video. You now know more about the Civilization franchise than anyone has any business knowing. If there's any cursed or obscure lore that you know, feel free to post it in the comments. Take care, everybody.